Okay, so today we're going to make a hypertile cube, and of course you know what a cube looks like. There's a very closely related shape, another platonic solid, called an octahedron, and what makes these closely related, maybe you can see, is that if I took the center of each face of this and used those to define a new polyhedron, it would be this. In fact, I could kind of stick this in there and show how the cube and the octahedron are related. Okay? Now I'm pointing this out because when you go ahead and make one of these hypertile shapes out of what I call pinwheel vertices, it's sometimes kind of hard to tell which one I've made here. I'm calling this one the octahedron because of these four-way junctures here. Okay, you see a four-way juncture there, opposite another four-way juncture, just like this has them opposite. And they're color-coded by vertex. But if instead you saw this right here as a square face, you could certainly interpret this as a cube. So again, they're related. I'm showing that to you for a couple reasons. One is we're going to make the cube. This is the octahedron, so it's going to be kind of similar. But the other thing is those platonic solids made of triangles are very kind of rigid. Triangles are great for building structures like bridges and buildings out of, because they don't give. Whereas cubes, I mean, you could see that this is so much more flimsy. Okay, and my hypertile octahedron is not at all flexible. I can't do any kind of distortion of it because it's based on these triangles here. Okay, but the cube, which I'm about to show you, that will have all kinds of cool flexible properties, kind of like the flexi loops that we made. Okay, you can go back and look at that picture, that video. Okay, so the octahedron had four-way junctures, right? See that? The cube has three-way junctures, so three edges meet at a vertex. So my pinwheels are going to be like this, not four-way, okay? And by the way, here's what a four-way looks like by itself, a purple one. And you can even do five-way pinwheel vertices, okay? Now, in the other shapes that we are doing, we wanted to make sure all of the pinwheels were oriented the same way. So one thing about these is, see how they kind of fold up like that? That only works if each of these propeller blades is pointing the same direction. So this is counterclockwise. You can see they're pointing in a counterclockwise direction. Okay? Here's an example of one that is exactly the opposite. They're all pointing counterclockwise. You can use either one, but in the other structures, I said just stick with one. So I have every vertex on this is what? Counterclockwise. And that's the only way this is going to work and look so elegant. You could try other combinations, but they'll look kind of wonky. The cube, because it's based on squares, gives us the flexibility to have all of the vertices be pointing the same direction, say clockwise or counterclockwise, whatever. Or, and this is what we're going to do because it really has some cool extra features, we are going to have 8 vertices, right? And 2 red, 2 blue, 2 yellow, 2 red, 2 blue, 2 green, 2 yellow, and we're going to have them be opposite rotations. Okay, so this one is pointing clockwise, that's the way a clock turns, and this one is pointing counterclockwise. There are my 2 red. Here are my 2 green. Okay, the fact that these line up like this as mirror images tells me that they are pointing opposite ways. That's a property in chemistry called chiral. They're like your 2 hands, left and right-handed. Okay, one goes, what is that? Counterclockwise, and the other goes clockwise. Okay, here are my 2 blue over here. Same idea. And I'm going to construct the yellows for you. Okay? So, ready? Start with one of the tiles facing you, with the 2 points closest to you being top and bottom. And we're going to put a connector on the left side. And right away now I've locked this in to be, I believe it's the counterclockwise one. Had I put it on the right one, which I'm going to do with the next one, because remember I have to make one of each, it'll do the exact opposite. Okay, that'll be clockwise, this will be counterclockwise. Okay, so let me show you what we do then. We only need 3 of these tiles. I'm going to connect another one, and I want to make sure this is a spiral connection so that I can fold this back and have it do that, because that's what each of these does, and not a zigzag connection, because that does not work. So have them all facing the same way, like that. And now we're going to put another hinge opposite it, way down here, just like door hinges. You want them to be far apart. And nope, not like that. That's not going to work. So I'm going to turn this 90 degrees. And there it is, except this last one's kind of loose, and so is the first one. So to add a little extra stability, we're going to put one in the middle between these last two. So every tile now has 2 connectors on it. You probably don't have to do that last thing, but it's nice. And let's see which one I made here. This is going, what is that, counterclockwise. See how they're pointing in a counterclockwise direction. So now we're going to do the opposite. So we'll have matching pairs of each. Here's the tile, remember? Oriented so the top and bottom are closer to me. Not like this, like this. And last time I put on the left side, and that gave me counterclockwise. This time I'm going to put on the right side. Okay, and now add the other ones. Did I add that correctly? No, I did not. Rotate it 90 degrees. Now is it added correctly? Yes. Put the other one down here. Put on my third one. Nope. There we go. And again now, just for extra support, one in the middle. Okay? So here are my 2 yellows, mirror images. Okay? Now I'm going to start mixing these together, and my yellows are going to end up on opposite sides of the cube, like here and here. And my blues will end up opposite corners and so forth. So that's kind of a neat pattern. Okay? And when I connect a yellow to, let's say, a blue, as long as I make sure I'm not making spiral connections, see, that would be a spiral connections, I want a zigzag, and there's nothing I can do with this one, because these are what, both clockwise, so I'm going to grab the other blue one here. Every time I connect, I want to make sure I'm making a zigzag connection. And what I mean by that is right there, a zigzag. It switches direction, okay? As opposed to this one, the spiral connection, which goes continuously. There's no switching directions. So, as long as every one of my connections now, see, all the connections within, those are spiral, gotta be. But now all my connections between these vertices is going to be zigzag. Zigzag, okay, I'll put a red one here. Is this the correct red one to put on? No, that gives me spiral. So I'll grab the other red one. That gives me the zigzag. Oop. I put one in the middle. You could make, by the way, these connections 2 if you want to make it a little bit more secure, but one's enough. And let's see, I want a green one here. I'm just going to reach for a random green one, and is it correct? Yes, it is. Yay. You see how that's going to give me a zigzag? The other one would have given me a spiral. And the reason I can do this zigzag connections here is that because there are 4 corners in a square, in the square, this will be zigzag, okay? If this were a triangular face, like we had here, if this is a zigzag and then this is a zigzag, that would have to be a spiral, because zigzag switches the directions, okay? But it works with a square because a square has an even number of edges. Okay? And now I don't have to worry about it because I'm going to grab the correct one. Opposite my red one, up here is another red, and I know this is the right one because I've already used that one, but just to confirm, that's going to give me a zigzag connection. Okay, and we'll just go from here. Green, blue, we have a green here, and again, because I've already used the one green, this will be the correct one. And it doesn't matter which one of these propeller blades I use because it's all symmetrical. What am I going to put here? What color? I've got two left, a blue and a yellow. Hopefully you're thinking yellow. Yeah, see that? And finally that last blue one here. Again, these are all making the zigzag connections, every one of them. There's no spiral going on there. And now I'm going to connect these up here, right? They get folded up to make my cube. Look at how they just come together naturally and make, yay, zigzag connections. Zigzag all over. Over here, we're going to connect that to this one. Zigzag, zigzag. Here we go. You don't want to connect it there. You want to connect it to the outer edge here, so that's, I guess, a mistake that could be made. But I think you'd catch that pretty quickly. You wouldn't be able to connect these last ones, I guess. And finally, our last connection. And we are done now with our Pinwheel Vertex Hypertile Cube. But as I said, this one had no flexibility. I can't do any kind of twisting or bending. That was the octahedron. But this one, because it's linked to this cube that can do all kinds of fun flexy things, all those properties that make a cube a bad choice for a building structure makes it a fun choice for a hypertile, because we have kind of things we can do with this that we can't do with the octahedron or with anything that's based on, whoops, break there, but no big deal, easy to bend, easy to put back together. You also get these wonderful like four-leaf clover patterns here out, and I could just be playing with this three-dimensional fidget toy. And if you look right here at the top, this right here is our 8-tile zigzag flexi loop. Go back and check out that video if you want. And there's another one, and there's another one. So it's made of a bunch of these flexi loops because they really are squares. And we get 6 of those squares. All kinds of fun stuff. Had we done this all with the vertices oriented the same way, let's say all counterclockwise, there would still be some flexibility, but it wouldn't give you this kind of, I'm going to call it kaleidoscope-like images. If you ever looked at a kaleidoscope, the way it's got these different kinds of symmetry, that's what we're looking at here. And it flexes through like this. And so this is the Pinwheel cube made with all the vertices spiraling the same way, counterclockwise. So not alternating as the other one was. And you can see there's some movement available, but it doesn't really lock in and give you that those nice precise movements the way the other one does. So now one more thing. I showed this with the, if you watch the octahedron video, you'll see that there's cool ways to break a couple of connections and then kind of flip the whole thing inside out. You can do that with this cube as well. And this should be kind of obvious because I could break this and this, and now watch how it flexes and connects again, right? So all it took was breaking 2. With the octahedron, I had to break 3 to do that. And then the question came up, can you do it with just breaking 1? No way with the other structures, but watch this. With the cube, I can take any one of these non-vertices connections, this one here for instance, break it. My first thinking was, oh, look at that, you can almost get there but not quite. But actually, because these things do kind of fold in on themselves, okay, if I'm patient with it, I'm able to give it some flexing, make sure the tiles aren't getting caught on each other. Ooh, see how that folds like that? Ha! I could invert the cube, breaking just one connection. Okay, I'll do that one more time to show you. We'll break a different connection this time. We'll break this one. And I think this works because, again, the cube is very flexible, and because these can overlap, you kind of have to help them through a little bit. The corners can get caught in the holes, but if we let them through like that, it helps to have these extra strong connectors. Whoop. Speaking of which, one just kind of came apart. So you can lay this thing almost completely flat. There. In fact, I'd say you can lay it flat. And then open it up and reconnect in the other direction. So there it is, the Pinwheel Vertex Hypertile Cube.